Hello fellow nerdmaids and nerdmaids-to-be, my name is Faith, and today I'll be sharing with you the top 10 places to buy a fabric tail 2023 edition. So, wow, it's been like 7 years since I last uploaded that video, and a lot has changed since then. I mean, I'm hopefully a little bit older and wiser, and the community has exploded in the last number of years. And when I was making that video, I made it out of kind of a frustration is that I didn't really know where good places to buy fabric mermaid tails were, like what was reputable sellers, what monofins could you use, and what were the tails like. And now, I mean, we have the opposite problem where instead of me like scraping together a list of options, I now have way too many to make a top 10 list. It's a good thing, but now it's kind of overwhelming for people to try and sift through, especially if you're beginning. So hopefully this will help. So before we get into this, I'm going to just quickly go through some vocabulary that'll help you know a little bit more about what I'm talking about. Skip ahead if you're already familiar. So I'm primarily going to be talking about fabric. So when I say fabric, I generally mean a tail that is either made of kind of a spandex or a tail that's made of kind of like a thicker material that we just generally refer to as scuba knit. I will be talking about silicone, and silicone refers to kind of this floppy, fleshy, rubbery, skin-like texture that a lot of very realistic and very heavy mermaid tails are made of. I'll be touching on it, but not a lot because I really want to just keep this to fabric tails. Typically, when we talk about mermaid tails, they come in two parts. The main part is the part that goes over your legs. This is called a tail skin. And then at the bottom, we call this the fluke. This is kind of the bottom part of your tail that you can flip up in the air. And in order to do that, you need a monofin. I'll be talking about the monofins that are advertised to work within the tails, and maybe some that I've figured out can work. But when I talk about a monofin, I mean it's like this. It's like a big flipper. They come in all different shapes and sizes, but a safe swimming monofin is absolutely 100% required to use a mermaid tail. Not a pair of flippers duct taped to cardboard, not a weird shoddy product from Wish that you don't know what it's made out of. A monofin from a safe and reputable source. This one is by Finis, and they are a sporting equipment manufacturer, so you know it's good. Now something that you're gonna hear is also the word vinyl. Now vinyl doesn't mean a whole tail made with like flooring material. Vinyl typically refers to, they're generally clear and a couple millimeters thick. This is like a plasticky sheet that fills out the bottom part, the fluke of the tail, but it's not a monofin. You will sandwich your monofin inside and swim out. Oh my gosh, that was my thighs. Now these are typically a little bit more expensive, a little bit harder to swim in, and so I don't super recommend them for beginners. Personally, I don't love vinyl tails, but I do like that they fill out the big giant flukes and will help a little bit with like maintaining their shape and making it not look all draggy in the water and feel draggy, but they do add a bit of heft to them. So when there are tails on this list that have vinyl in them, I will specify and make that clarification. I don't typically recommend tails with vinyl flukes as a beginner tail, just keep that in mind. There are a lot of talented tail makers out there. As you can see, I've amassed a small army of mermaid tails, but not all of them are still in production, and some of them, while they might be still in production, the tail maker might only take things on a limited basis. So I'm trying to make recommendations on tail making companies that are taking orders on a very ongoing basis, just so that, you know, no one is disappointed that like, oh, what the heck, I didn't get the tail I wanted because they're not doing things right now, I don't get this. So that is where I'm coming from. And as well, for this time, I really want to highlight some international tail makers because as a Canadian, I know how brutal shipping and import can be. So I'm going to include some recommendations for tails on different parts of the world as well, so that you get an idea of, hey, if it might be expensive to import a tail from North America, here's a local option to me. As well, I'm not getting paid to promote any of these. These are just my personal opinions and recommendations based on either my personal experience or the experience from others that I trust. Okay, so let's start in Europe for number 10, Magictail. Magictail is based in Germany and has been around for a long time. This tail from them is actually the second tail I ever got, and I love it so much. They are made of kind of a thin spandex. I'm not sure if they have any scuba knit ones. I'll have to editor's note that. They're super easy. They're really lightweight. This one is the one I'd recommend for beginners. This is called the Super. They make their own monofin, but I have found that you could fit the one from FinFun inside of this. If you're looking for a more upgraded look, they have their Pro tails. These actually will fit the Mahina monofin, which is awesome, and they have ones that are just kind of a little more basic like this, and then they have some that are like got all these fins and are super deluxe, and you can even customize your own, which is really, really cool. For this particular tail skin, the price in US dollars is about $73, and if you add on the fin, it comes out to $167 US dollars. The pro tails with these bigger flukes go from $112 US dollars all the way up to almost $400. Swimming on over to America, we have SunTails! They made the tail that was the third one I ever got, and they have since been a staple in my collection for teaching beginners. They are very lightweight spandex, and honestly, they're probably like one of the cheapest tails that is safe that you can get, with the monofin and the tail together going for $79.95. By the way, these are all adult sizes that I'm referencing in US dollars. I'm personally not the biggest fan of this monofin. I find this a little boxy for my taste, but it is pretty good for beginners. And I have found that their flukes will fit a FinFun, a Luna, or a Linden monofin. Now, recently, while I was researching tails that look like the new Little Mermaid, I discovered this company, Sereia Guardia, has been taking South America and the rest of the world by storm in the last 2 years that they've been open, with their absolutely gorgeous tail designs with big vinyl-filled flukes, lots of options, and honestly, just like, they look pretty good. Their tails range from about $250 to $360 US dollars without the monofin, so again, remember, you have to supply your own, but I have heard that their tails will work with fins such as the Finnish Shooter or the Mermaid Linden. I personally haven't tried any of these, but I really wanted to include a tail maker from South America because I know that there's a big population of mermaids down there, and I wanted to include a tail that was made specifically for you guys, and I've had the strong recommendations of others. Now, I would say proceed with caution if you're a beginner, because again, a tail with vinyl in it is going to be quite a bit harder to swim in, and from what I can tell, they don't sell any tails with that not as an option. Hopefully in the future though, so just keep that in mind. Now, swimming back over to the USA is a humongous company that you've probably heard of at this point, Mertailor! They have many options from beginner-friendly spandex tails all the way up to occasionally taking silicone tail orders. I have 5 different tails from them, and I personally really like the Guppy just for taking it up for casual, fun, easy swims. Their most popular tails are for the original fantasy fins, which are hefty. But these are actually made of silicone, and they fill out the flukes of bigger, very expensive, high-quality tails called whimsies. And these are made of a thicker scuba knit fabric. The Guppy tails go for $99.99 for the skin, and the Linden you can purchase from them for $69.99. For comparison, the Fantasy Fin 3 tail, with no extra little body fins on it, plus the Fantasy Fin 3, would cost you about $735. Now, if you happen to like some of those big fantasy fin monofins, but you're located in, I don't know, South Africa, and a tail would just push you way over the edge budget-wise, allow me to introduce you to Moonsong Magic. They make lovely fabric tails that are pre-designed or custom. This one is mine that I recently got. I love how huge the fluke is, and the design on it is just gorgeous, and it's got all these fins. It's so pretty. It's printed on kind of like a thin scuba knit and is really, really comfortable. And this one costs about $450 US dollars. A more basic one by them starts at $200. And I believe that one would fit the Mahina or the Fantasy Fin 3. And this one I've also used the Fish Fin, which is awesome. It's honestly a great deal no matter where you are in the world, so check them out. Now, another place that makes both fabric and silicone tails is one of the OG tail makers, FinFolk Productions. In the past few years, they've expanded their offerings to include fabric tails with big giant vinyl flukes, and more recently, smaller, more beginner-friendly tails called Discoveries that, similar to the Mertailor Guppy, will fit the Linden monofin. Both are made of the same high-quality scuba knit fabric and are actually based on photographs of their silicone tails, which is what they were originally known for. So they have this really amazing 3-dimensional design, which is just gorgeous. Like, you can look at this tail and not realize that it's all flat printed on fabric. It's amazing. They typically have these Discovery tails available on an ongoing basis, but they'll only take a limited amount of orders for their big giant signature tails with the vinyl, so you just gotta be on top of it when they do a release, and they typically release a couple designs at a time, and then the crowd goes crazy. And these ones are very big and a little bit difficult to swim in, but I 100% recommend the Discovery. I think they're really awesome, and they start at $215 US, so a little bit pricier for a beginner tail, but they do sell the Linden on their website for $60 US. I don't have the price for their big signature tails. I believe they usually start at around $375 US, but I'll have to fact check that. And the monofins are not included, but my favorite is probably the Finnis shooter one, because it really just gives that power that you need to the fluke. And speaking of big, beautiful tails, some with vinyl, may I present to you Neverland Mermaid tails. They are based in Australia, and this is another one that I personally don't have, but my colleagues down under have assured me that they make very quality tails to suit any of your needs. They're mini megs that fit the Mahina, start at, I think it's $295 US, and then they make bigger tails with vinyl on the inside, so you can accommodate a number of different monofins inside, and they also make custom tails, which is really awesome. And I really hope that this tail maker takes off, especially within the Australian market. And hey, if you have a knack for artistry or sewing, you can always consider making your own. I personally don't have that talent, but a number of my friends like Ravenna Mermaid, Mermaid Seamstress, and Mermaid Kaida have made really gorgeous tails for themselves that I envy. This one is actually one that Ravenna Mermaid made and then gave it to me, and it's cool. It's really neat. I like it. Look at that fin. Look at that fin. The great thing about making your own tail is that you can design it completely custom to your size, your favorite colors, your design, and your favorite monofin. If you want to try and make your own mermaid tail design in the computer, my friend Courtney Mermaid, who's made several tails, such as this one, actually has ebooks on how to make printed fabric tails, which is amazing. Another tail maker that is serving the Asian market is Mermaid Inc. They're based in Asia, I think in Indonesia, but they sell worldwide. I got this tail from them a while back, and it is really nice. Look how vibrant that is. It is made of a solid scuba knit material, and it fits the Mahina. I've also used it with the fish fin as well, and it's just a really solid tail. This one actually came with vinyl, but I hated it, so I just threw it out, and they're like, yeah, point taken. They also make tails for adults and kids for different fins by Finnis. Now, I will say recently there have been a bunch of other Asian tail makers, but I haven't tried any of them, so I figured I'd just go with the safe bet. But they have been around for a really long time, so I trust them completely, and they make good stuff. Some of their more beginner tails start at $130, with bigger ones like this going for up to $288 US. But yeah, Mermaid Inc, check them out. And I realized I had talked a lot about tails that fit this fin. This is one of my favorites. It's called the Mahina, and they retail for about $116 US. Now, I will say, it might be a steep price, but it's a good investment because these fins hold up like nothing else. Whereas other fins have straps that can break, silicone that can rip, neoprene that can stretch, this will not die ever. It just refuses to die. I highly recommend checking this type of monofin out if you're looking for maybe something bigger with a little bit more flop, but also sturdy and can really propel you through the water. That's just a side note. Now, last but certainly not least, the one that you've been waiting for, it is the one and only FinFun Mermaid is my #1 recommendation, and it has been for the last like 9 years that I've been mermaiding. FinFun is the tail company that I started with and still is my #1 recommendation for mermaid tails, especially for beginners. They are safe, they are durable, they are easy to use, and they're pretty affordable. This is one of their types of monofins. This is the Advanced Monofin Pro. They also sell a more basic version of it. And their tail skins come in a wide variety of sizes, shapes, colors, levels of sparkliness, but they're very, very basic ones called the Mermaidens start at $44 US for adults. To get the title teal Mermaiden's tail with a swimming monofin, it is $84.95 US. Now, please note that I don't take any commission for saying this. Again, this is just my #1 recommendation because I have seen so many people use their tails, love their tails, and it enabled them to get into the hobby without totally breaking the bank, but still feeling like, hey, you know, I look good. I feel confident in this tail. This is a limited edition Lunar Tide tail, one of my favorites from them. It's so pretty, it's just so sparkly, and my colors, and I just love it. And I can squeeze a Linden and a Luna into these tail skins, but it's not super recommended as it will kind of stretch it out and eventually damage the tail, but it's worth the risk for me. They have a lot of different options for their tails, but most of their entry-level ones are made of a thin spandex, which makes it to be a little bit cheaper cheaper and a lot lighter, and they dry really, really fast. Their monofins have a hard polypropylene insert, and then they have just a neoprene cover over top with foot pockets that you put your feet into, and it's really easy to take off in an emergency, which is why I super recommend it for beginners. You can obviously level up in their tail skins. They have their limited editions, which are these sparkly ones. You can get a custom designed one. They have their Atlantis ones that have like little dorsal fins and side fins on them. And then recently they have their Elite line, which is similar to the FinFolks, where they have a big vinyl fluke and are made of a thicker scuba knit material. I personally would choose to use the Linden or the Shooter inside of those tails. And all of their tails, I'm not sure about the Elites, but all of their spandex tails do have these rubberized fluke tips, so this means that your tail is a little more durable if you're like accidentally flicking it against the side of the pool and stuff, which happens if you're still getting used to having this appendage at the end of your feet. Super helpful, and I fully recommend these as my #1 choice for beginners. They're based in the US, shipping to Canada is a little but it's not terrible. They also do international shipping as well, and they do have an Amazon storefront. It doesn't have every single one of their tails, but it is helpful if you're like, I don't want to create an account and do shipping and all that stuff. You can just get it on Amazon if you have an Amazon account. So there you have it, folks. Those are my top 10 recommendations for mermaid tails, both based in North America and worldwide. I hope this was helpful for you. I know a lot of people have been requesting like, hey, can you make an update on that video you made 7 years ago? And I'm like, I'm working on it, so I'm glad to finally have gotten this out of the way, and I hope this is really, really helpful to you. If you're newer to mermaiding, I did a video about what is mermaiding and how can you do it. You can click right there to watch it. Comment below what kind of tails you have. I'd love to hear about your mermaid journey. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the bell to see more videos like this and other mermaidy things I get up to. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!